The air was thick with smoke and the metallic taste of blood. Private Daniel Cole's ears rang from the last mortar blast as dirt showered over him, stinging his face. He pressed himself deeper into the crater, heart pounding like a war drum. The mountain ridge above was crawling with enemy fighters, muzzle flashes lighting the rocks like fireflies in a storm. Cole, cover left. Sergeant Ramirez's voice was raw, barely audible over the chaos. Cole swung his M4, firing short, controlled bursts. Sparks flew as bullets chipped away at the shattered stone wall beside him. The platoon was pinned, outnumbered 3-1. They had stumbled into a kill zone, a canyon road lined with hidden machine gun nests. Cole caught a glimpse of Ramirez sprinting forward, dragging a wounded soldier with one arm, firing with the other. "Medic, get over here," Ramirez yelled, his voice breaking. Cole's throat tightened as he saw who it was, Stevens, their youngest. Blood soaked his uniform from a chest wound. The medic slid in beside them, trembling hands working frantically. "Pressure here. Keep him breathing," the medic shouted, tossing gauze. Cole dropped his rifle and clamped his hands over the wound. Stevens' pale blue eyes flickered open, wide with fear. "I don't want to die," he rasped. "You're not," Cole lied, forcing a smile. "You're going to be home by Christmas, kid." Another explosion rocked the canyon. Cole's vision blurred from the shockwave. A burning Humvee flipped nearby, filling the air with the stench of diesel and charred metal. They were losing men fast, and the radio crackled with frantic calls for air support. Then came the voice that froze Cole's blood. "American dogs," it hissed in broken English, broadcast over a loudspeaker from somewhere high on the ridge. "You are trapped. Drop your weapons, and maybe you live." Cole clenched his jaw. He knew that voice. Everyone did. Kader al-Shafi, the ruthless warlord whose ambushes had left entire villages in ruins. He wasn't known for mercy. Ramirez spat into the dirt. "Ain't happening." The enemy's machine guns roared again, pinning them down. Cole crawled toward a fallen radio operator, ripping the headset from his body. "This is Echo 1-2. We're under heavy fire. Coordinates, mark. Alpha 7. Need air support now." Static. Then silence. The line was dead. Ramirez cursed, reloading. "Cole, you see that ridge? We take out that nest, we might stand a chance." Cole followed his gaze. A jagged slope led to a rocky outcrop where the enemy gunner was shredding their position. It was suicide, but staying meant certain death. "Cover me," Cole said, grabbing a grenade. Ramirez gave him a grim nod. "Go." Cole sprinted, lungs burning, boots slipping on loose gravel. Bullets snapped past his ears like angry hornets. He dove behind a boulder, heart hammering, then crawled forward on his stomach. The gunner's position was just ahead, shielded by sandbags. Cole yanked the pin with trembling fingers. He counted to 3 and popped up, hurling the grenade. The explosion shook the ridge, sending bodies and debris flying. Cole surged forward, grabbing the machine gun. He swung it down on the canyon, unloading hell on the enemy forces below. For the first time in 20 minutes, they had breathing room. "Cole, get back here." Ramirez's voice was hoarse, desperate. Cole turned and froze. A dark figure stood on the opposite ridge, silhouetted by flames. A scarred face. Cold, calculating eyes. Kader. The warlord raised his hand. Snipers fired. A bullet tore into Ramirez's shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Another hit the medic. Screams echoed. Cole roared, firing blindly toward Kader, but the warlord vanished into the smoke. "Sergeant." Cole scrambled down the slope, grabbing Ramirez by the vest. "Stay with me." Ramirez coughed blood, his hand gripping Cole's arm. "Get Stevens out." His words faded, his body limp. "Ramirez." "No." Cole's voice cracked, but there was no time to grieve. The enemy was closing in, shadows moving through the smoke. Cole hoisted Stevens over his shoulder, the boys breathing shallow. Then he heard it, the distant rumble of helicopters. Air support. But as he stumbled toward cover, a deafening crack split the air. The ground exploded beneath his feet. Pain seared his leg, and everything went black. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Catter standing over him, a cruel smile on his face, cold stone on his cheek, diesel in the air, the low growl of a generator. When Cole opened his eyes, the room tilted, bare bulb, cracked plaster, a door banded with rusted iron, plastic bite of zip ties cut into his wrists. His head throbbed in time with the hum of the light. A shadow moved. Boots scraped. Awake, a voice said, amused. Good. Heroes should not sleep through their trials. Kader al-Shafi stepped into the cone of light, the scar on his jaw white as chalk. 2 gunmen lingered behind him, Kalashnikovs held like casual insults. Kader crouched, studying Cole's face like a hawk studies a rabbit. You killed my gunner, Kader said softly. Efficient. Brave. Wasteful. Cole swallowed blood. Where's my sergeant? Your sergeant is with his ancestors, Kader said, tone flat as slate. The boy is here. They dragged Stevens in and dumped him like a sack of grain. The kid's face was gray, lips cracked, shirt mottled with old blood and fresh. His eyes fluttered, found Cole, and steadied. I'm okay, he whispered. Liar. Kader watched the exchange, head tilted. You will do me a small kindness, Captain Cole. I'm a staff sergeant, Cole said. Not anymore, Kader replied. Today, you are a father confessing to save his son. You will tell me the radio frequencies, the call signs, the way your angels find us in the dark. He smiled without warmth. Or the boy's breath will leave him like smoke. Cole's jaw clenched. He saw Ramirez's hand slipping from his sleeve, heard the crack that turned the medics shout into silence. He saw the canyon again, a funnel someone should have marked, the map he'd argued over. It's faster this way, Sarge, his certainty that had steered them right into the teeth of the ridge. Stevens, he said, forcing his voice calm, listen to me. You keep your eyes on me. We've got this. Don't, Kader murmured. Do not sing him your lies. He stood and motioned. A guard lifted a pistol to Stevens' temple. Cole breathed in, lungs filling with the hot stink of the generator, and let it out slowly. Duty or mercy, code or life. The balance wavered a razor's edge. A tiny flicker caught his eye. A stutter of light in the corner where the ceiling beam met the wall. No, not light, a moth's wing. And under it, the dull, almost invisible glint of metal in a hairline crack. The micro-beacon he'd stitched into his cuff on deployment had been torn off sometime after the blast. He didn't have it. But the hummingbird-sized ISR drone that had tailed his squad at night often drifted toward heat and sound, nosing like a curious ghost. If it had found them, if it had nested in the rafters with its cold little eye. Look at me, Cole told Kader, and spat blood at his boots. The room paused. The gunman's finger tensed. Kader's smile sharpened. Very good, he said. Perform. Cole surged off the chair, drove his head into the guard's chest, snapped the chair legs against the floor to shatter them, and threw his weight sideways. The pistol barked. Plaster spit sparks. Stevens flinched. Cole kicked, heel to knee, and the gunman yelped. The other guard rushed in, weapon rising. Then the world tilted again. No tour. A distant thunder rolled in. The light cut out. The building shuddered as if a giant had gripped its spine. Overhead, a metal shriek through the slat window. A white flash blossomed on the hill and turned night into glass. The drone had sung. The angels had heard. Move, Cole hissed, rolling to Stevens, sawing zip ties against a bent nail in the floor. They snapped. He hauled the kid up. Stevens screamed, biting it off. The door bucked as feet pounded in the corridor. Dust sifted from the ceiling. Somewhere inside the complex, ammo cooked off in angry pops. They ran. A short hall, a grimy curtain, a stairwell zigzagging down. A woman in a stained headscarf stood at the bottom, pressing a crying child to her hip. Her eyes were bright with fear. Please, she said in broken English, thrusting a hard drive wrapped in cloth into Cole's chest. Take this. Names. Videos. What they do. Please. They kill my brother. Cole jammed it into his vest, shoved a spare tourniquet into her hand. South wall. When it breaks, run. He pointed. She nodded, knuckles white on the kid. Catter's voice rode the chaos from somewhere above, amplified by a battery amp. Find them, he boomed. Fury cracked with something like delight. Bring me the American with iron eyes. They hit a steel door. Its latch was a bent hasp, the padlock so rusted it looked ornamental. Cole drew a breath, fired twice, and the door lurched. Night blasted in cold, sharp, full of dust and ash. The hillside fell away in terraces and alleys. Below, the courtyard boiled with fighters spilling like ants from split nests. In the far distance, a helicopter's blades beat a steady warlike rhythm. Too far for rescue. Close enough to be hope. Stevens leaned into Cole, breath shallow. I can walk, he lied again. Then we're walking, Cole said. They cut along the wall, sliding through smoke and shadow. A truck roared past loaded with crates and children, faces ghost pale in the strobing light, a human shield lashed to steel. Cole froze, stomach dropping. On a rooftop beyond, a man hefted a long tube onto his shoulder. An old Soviet launcher, ugly and certain, pointed toward the thump of the approaching bird. Don't, Stevens rasped, reading his mind. You can't shoot the truck. A shape stepped from the smoke ahead, calm amidst panic. Catter. No guards now, as if the fire he'd started had burned away everything but him. He leveled a pistol at Cole's chest. History is a mouth that chews the brave, the warlord said, voice steady despite the inferno. If you fire on my truck, your country will make you a traitor. If you do not, your angels die. He smiled, a thin, tired thing. I do not need to kill you, Captain. Your laws will finish my work. The rotor thump swelled. Cole's hand found a laser designator clipped behind his knife sheath, tiny, nearly useless against the blaze of night and smoke, but not nothing. He could mark the launcher, maybe, the truck. The ammo shack crammed with rockets at the east wall. Each choice glowed with its own ruin. He raised the pointer, held his breath. Chose. Cole painted the ammo shack. A heartbeat later the sky peeled back, another white flower, a petal of fire curling inward, and the east wall became a storm. The blast slapped the truck sideways. Kids tumbled. Fighters scattered. The man with the launcher spun and fired early. The shot wobbled and arced, trailing smoke, vanishing into dark. Catter staggered, eyes flashing to the bloom. For an instant Cole saw him not as a myth, but as a man, tired, furious, surprised to still be breathing. Then the warlord raised his pistol again. A bolt of light split the alley between them. Stone whipped past Cole's face. When the dust settled, Catter was gone. Shouts rose. The courtyard seethed anew. Cole hauled Stevens toward the breach in the east wall, lungs burning, ears full of the helicopter's drum and the first sharp barks of friendly rifles at the far rim. They leaped the broken wall, landed in scrub, stumbled into a ravine that smelled of rain and cordite. Cole glanced back once and saw a scatter of small figures crawling from the truck, the woman with the scarf shepherding them like a quake-born shepherd in smoke. Not enough saved. Never enough. They scrambled through the ravine until the rotors swelled overhead, a black hawk looming like a dark moon. A rope unfurled. Hands reached. Cole shoved Stevens up first, the kid swaying, pale. He grabbed the rope himself. And time broke. Years later, under the high lamps of a wood-paneled courtroom, Daniel Cole stood straight in his dress blues. The Medal of Honor lay heavy and cold on his chest. The judge peered down over rimless glasses and said, "Clear enough for the packed gallery and the cameras. Sergeant Cole, remove that medal in my court." The gavel lifted. The room inhaled. The next second would end a career. The courtroom was silent, save for the faint hum of the ceiling fans. Cole's hand hovered near the medal, fingers trembling, not from fear of the judge, but from the memories the medal carried like a locked vault. The audience leaned in. Cameras clicked softly, a mechanical heartbeat filling the tension. Veterans in faded uniforms lined the back row, jaws clenched. Families of soldiers lost overseas clutched folded flags to their chests, watching. Cole's lawyer whispered, "Daniel, just take it off. We'll appeal." Cole's eyes flicked toward her, then back to the judge. His chest rose and fell slowly as his mind dragged him back to the mountain, the smoke, the weight of Stephen's blood on his hands. "No," Cole said, his voice quiet but sharp enough to cut through the murmurs. The judge's gaze hardened. "This is a court of law, not a military parade ground. Remove that medal." Cole took a single step forward. "With respect, Your Honor, this medal isn't mine to take off." The gallery gasped. "Sergeant." Cole raised his voice, steady but laced with gravel. "This medal belongs to Ramirez. To Stevens. To every man who didn't come home. You want me to take it off? You'll have to tear it off my chest yourself." A ripple of outrage swept through the gallery. The bailiffs stiffened, hands on their belts. The judge's face flushed. "You're in contempt of this court, Sergeant." Cole stood taller, like he had in formation, unflinching. "Then write it down. Add it to the record." For a moment, the entire room seemed frozen. 2 years earlier, the Blackhawks' rotors thundered overhead as Cole clung to the rope, Stephen's limp body dangling above him. His legs screamed with every swing, blood soaking his pants, but he climbed anyway. The ravine below erupted with gunfire. Tracers cut the night. "Go! Go!" someone shouted from the helicopter, hauling Stevens inside. Cole reached the lip, arms trembling. A crewman grabbed his vest and yanked him in. They took off just as an RPG streaked past, exploding against the ridge. The shock wave rattled the bird, and for a second Cole thought they'd fall out of the sky. Inside, medics worked on Stevens frantically, pressing gauze to the hole in his chest. Cole clutched the hard drive the woman had given him, blood smearing its edges. "Hold on, kid," Cole whispered, gripping Stevens' hand. "Stay with me." The boy's lips moved, but no sound came out. His eyes found Cole's, and a weak smile flickered. Then his hand went slack. Cole froze, staring, his heartbeat slowing to a hollow thud. A medic shook his head. Stevens was gone. Cole leaned back against the bulkhead, blood and sweat cooling on his skin. His leg throbbed. His chest burned. Outside, the war-torn mountains rolled by like shadows. Ramirez was gone. Stevens was gone. Half the squad gone. And in Cole's lap, the hard drive felt heavier than a body. Back in the courtroom, Cole's voice broke through the silence again. "That day," he said, looking straight at the judge, "I watched boys die for each other, for their country, for a cause they didn't even understand. They didn't come home, Your Honor. But this." He tapped the medal. "This came home. And if you think I'm going to dishonor their sacrifice by taking it off because someone's feelings got hurt, you're out of your mind." Murmurs spread through the room. A veteran in the gallery stood. Then another. Soon, the back row was filled with men and women in old uniforms, standing in quiet solidarity. The judge's gavel slammed. "Order! Order!" But no one sat down. Cole's lawyer whispered urgently, "Daniel, sit. Please. They'll charge you." Cole's eyes stayed locked on the judge. The gavel slammed again, harder this time. "You're done, Sergeant Cole. You're stripped of your rank, your benefits, and your—" The courtroom doors burst open. A woman in a tailored suit strode in, flanked by 2 men in dark jackets. She carried a briefcase and a look that could cut glass. "Your Honor," she said sharply, interrupting, "you will not finish that sentence." The gallery gasped. The judge froze, visibly rattled. "And you are—" "Deputy Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency," she said, flashing a badge. "That medal stays exactly where it is. And so does Sergeant Cole." She turned to Cole, nodding slightly. "We need to talk. Now." Cole frowned, confused. The judge slammed his gavel yet again, voice shaking with frustration. "This is MY Courtroom." The DIA agent turned her cold gaze on him. "Not anymore." Suddenly, the tension shifted. The bailiffs hesitated. The veterans stood taller. Cameras flashed. Cole followed the agent out of the courtroom, whispers rippling in their wake. The hard drive, the one he'd smuggled out of that hellhole, suddenly felt like a live grenade in his pocket. The hallway outside was eerily quiet. The agent leaned in close and whispered, "What you brought back from that village, it's bigger than you think. And Catter's not done." Cole froze. "You're telling me he's still alive?" The agent's eyes were steel. Alive and closer than you'd like. Cole's blood ran cold. Behind them, the courtroom erupted in shouting. The DIA safe house was buried in the bowels of Washington, D.C., disguised as a bland government office with flickering fluorescent lights and a broken vending machine in the lobby. Cole sat across from the agent, Special Agent Marlowe. She'd introduced herself, with the hard drive resting on the metal table between them like a sacred relic. "You're telling me I risked my men, buried friends, and carried this thing through hell just to get chewed out in a courtroom?" Cole's voice was low, sharp. Marlowe's expression didn't change. "You weren't supposed to make it back, Sergeant. The operation wasn't sanctioned. Officially, your squad wasn't even in that valley." Cole's jaw tightened. "Then what the hell was I doing there?" She slid a folder across the table. Grainy black and white surveillance photos spilled out. Catter shaking hands with a man in a suit, a convoy of unmarked trucks, crates stamped with Cyrillic lettering. Another photo showed something that made Cole's stomach twist, a child in a filthy dress, shackled to a wall. "This," Marlowe said, tapping the photo, "is why we sent you in. Catter isn't just a warlord. He's running weapons for 3 separate regimes, laundering money through humanitarian fronts, and trading human lives like currency. The hard drive you brought back is proof. Names, routes, offshore accounts. Enough to topple governments." Cole stared at the photos. "Then why am I on trial? Why are they trying to strip me of everything?" Marlowe's lips curved into something like a grim smile. "Because someone wants this buried. And you, Sergeant Cole, are their scapegoat." Cole leaned back, running a hand over his face. The weight of his Medal of Honor felt heavier now, almost mocking. Ramirez's voice echoed in his head. "Get Stevens out." He'd failed. Yet here he was, alive, while the system tried to erase his name. "You said Catter's alive," Cole muttered. "Where?" Marlowe hesitated, then slid another photo forward. A satellite image of a bustling port city. "Eastern Europe. He's gone to ground, but he's moving. The chatter we intercepted after your extraction says he's planning something big, something that makes the hard drive look small." Cole studied the photo, his pulse quickening. Catter's face burned in his memory like a brand. The scar, the calm eyes, the way he'd stood in the fire like a king on his throne. "What do you need from me?" Marlowe leaned closer. "You're the only man who's faced him and lived. He knows your face. He knows your tactics. And he hates you enough to make mistakes. We need that." Cole barked a humorless laugh. "So I go from war criminal to bait." "You go from scapegoat to hero, again," she corrected. Cole's eyes hardened. "I'm not doing this for redemption. I'm doing it because Ramirez and Stevens deserve better than a courtroom circus." Marlowe studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Good." She slid a new ID and a passport across the table. "You're officially dead. As of tomorrow, Daniel Cole doesn't exist. You'll move under the codename Echo." Cole picked up the passport, flipping through its crisp pages. The name inside meant nothing. He'd traded his identity for a mission before. This time, it felt final. 3 days later, Cole stood in a rain-slick alley in Odessa. His new identity already burned in his mind. The city reeked of diesel and salt water, neon signs buzzing in Cyrillic. Marlowe's voice crackled in his earpiece. "Eyes up, Echo. Target's moving." Cole adjusted his jacket, feeling the comforting weight of a suppressed pistol against his ribs. He moved with the crowd, blending into the chaos of the market street. Ahead, through the mist of rain and cigarette smoke, a convoy of black SUVs rolled to a stop. Men with rifles spilled out, scanning the crowd. Then he saw him. Catter stepped out of the lead SUV, wearing a suit sharp enough to cut glass. The scar on his jaw caught the light like a blade. He walked calmly, flanked by guards, as if he owned the city. Cole's breath slowed, his training kicking in. He ducked into a shadowed alcove, hand brushing the comm at his collar. "Visual confirmed," he whispered. "Copy," Marlowe said. "Don't engage. We need him to lead us to the shipment." Cole's eyes narrowed. Catter wasn't carrying himself like a man in hiding. He was too calm, too aware. Suddenly, Catter stopped mid-step. His head turned slightly, scanning the crowd. Cole froze. Catter's gaze swept the street, then locked, directly on Cole's shadowed corner. Echo, Marlowe hissed in his ear, abort. Now. But it was already too late. Catter raised a gloved hand. His guards erupted into motion, rifles snapping up. The market exploded into chaos, screams, shattered glass, gunfire echoing like thunder. Cole dove for cover, drawing his pistol. Contact, he barked into the comm, firing 2 quick shots. A guard dropped. The crowd scattered like birds under fire. Catter didn't run. He stood in the open, eyes locked on Cole, calm as ever. Sergeant Cole. Catter's voice boomed over the chaos, rich and mocking. The mountain ghost lives. Come, then. Let us finish what we started. Cole's blood ran cold. Catter hadn't just seen him. He'd been waiting for him. And that meant Marlowe's op was compromised from the start. Cole ducked as bullets ripped apart the fruit stand he was crouched behind. Sirens wailed in the distance. He had seconds to move before the street became a kill box. Echo exfil now. Marlowe's voice snapped in his ear. But Cole's eyes were locked on Catter, who smiled like a man who already knew how this night would end. Cole tightened his grip on his pistol, heart pounding. He wasn't running. Not this time. Cole exploded from cover, sprinting low and fast, weaving through the screaming crowd as bullets chewed through the market stalls. A vendor's canopy burst into flames as tracer fire stitched the alley, the smell of burning fabric mixing with gunpowder and blood. Echo fall back. Marlowe's voice barked through his earpiece, frantic now. Negative, Cole growled, diving behind a stone pillar as a rifle round sparked inches from his head. He's here. I'm not letting him walk. Cole, listen to me. But the line cut with a burst of static. Catter's men were closing in, moving like wolves through the chaos, pushing civilians aside with brutal efficiency. Cole rolled, fired twice, and another guard crumpled. He grabbed the fallen man's rifle and ducked into a narrow alley, boots splashing through filthy puddles. Behind him, Catter's voice carried over the din, calm and measured, like a hunter coaxing prey. You're alone again, soldier. Like the mountain. Like the night your friends bled into the dirt. Tell me, does your metal keep you warm when they visit your dreams? Cole's jaw tightened, rage bubbling beneath his focus. He pushed deeper into the alley, heart pounding. Catter wasn't chasing him recklessly. He was hurting him, setting the stage. Cole emerged into a courtyard lit by a single swinging street lamp. Rusted shipping containers lined the walls, and in the center stood Catter, unarmed, his dark suit immaculate despite the chaos. Sergeant, Catter said, spreading his hands. No need to hide. Cole stepped forward, rifle raised. End of the line. Catter chuckled softly. Do you think killing me will stop this? I am not a man. I am an idea. And ideas. Cole fired. The shot went wide as Catter moved like a shadow, ducking behind a container. Gunfire erupted again. Sparks lit the courtyard as bullets ricocheted off steel. Cole dove behind cover, reloading with practiced precision. Then a flash of movement. Catter lunging from the side, blade glinting. Cole swung his rifle up just in time to block the slash, the knife. Screeching against the barrel. They crashed together, grappling in the mud, fists and elbows flying. Catter was stronger than Cole expected, his strike sharp and surgical. But Cole fought with something Catter didn't have, rage and memory, the ghosts of Ramirez and Stevens screaming in his blood. Catter swung the knife again, but Cole caught his wrist, twisting hard. The blade clattered to the ground. Cole drove his knee into Catter's ribs, slamming him back against the container. Your war ends here, Cole snarled. Catter spat blood, grinning through split lips. You think you're a hero? Your country left you to rot. They sent you to die so they could pretend their hands were clean. Maybe, Cole said, shoving the rifle muzzle under Catter's chin. But I'm still breathing, and they're still scared of me. Before Catter could reply, Cole squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked like thunder, echoing off steel. Catter's body slumped, sliding down the container wall. His eyes, even in death, were calm. Cole staggered back, chest heaving. The market outside was eerily quiet now, the gunfire fading as sirens drew near. Echo status. Marlowe's voice crackled back to life. Cole exhaled shakily. Target down. 2 weeks later, the courtroom was silent again, but the energy was different. Cameras clicked. Veterans stood at attention in the back row. Cole sat in his dress blues, the Medal of Honor still gleaming on his chest. Marlowe was there too, in civilian clothes, a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. The prosecution's case had crumbled in the wake of the intelligence Cole delivered, exposing corruption in high places. Headlines screamed of Catter's death and the dismantling of his network. The judge cleared his throat. Sergeant Daniel Cole, this court formally withdraws all charges. You are reinstated with full honors. The gallery erupted in applause. Cole sat still, jaw tight. He didn't feel like a hero. Ramirez was still gone. Stevens was still gone. That medal felt heavier than ever. Afterward, Marlowe met him in the hallway. You saved a lot of lives, Cole. And you've made powerful enemies. This isn't over. Cole gave a humorless laugh. Figures. What's next? She handed him a sealed envelope. New orders. Read them when you're ready. Cole took it, tucking it into his jacket. As he stepped outside, the sun hit his face for the first time in weeks. The city buzzed with life, unaware of the war still raging in the shadows. Cole touched the medal on his chest, then looked toward the horizon. Ramirez's voice echoed in his mind. Get Stevens out. Cole whispered back, I will. And for the first time, he felt the faint pull of something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The fight wasn't over. It never would be. But Daniel Cole was ready.